motion ready. We can talk to the agenda.
These are the two motions I'm going to be making.
All right, you just let me know.
Yeah, I got them both on the screen, the two I'll make. Move to ratify the use of executive session to discuss committee applications. I'm going to put the prior use. And are we losing an hour's sleep tonight?
So we gained it.
No.
No, we're winning.
We're getting an extra one. It was such a good time for me.
Then why did Matt, a friend of mine on Facebook said, enjoy losing your hour of sleep? Oh, it's for the DST peasants?
Your Facebook friends are wrong about daylightsavingstime.com.
Yeah, somebody else immediately said game. Okay.
It's fall forward.
Yeah. So we're gaining sleep. That's nice.
I mean, if you go here from the West Coast, does it even matter?
Well, you gotta show up on time for the meeting, that's all.
Whatever it is, it's just artificial statecraft BS.
You're here.
Yeah, man.
Welcome back, everyone,
Messing up
to our
everything.
rant about daylight savings time.
It's our
I believe our secretary has a motion she'd like to make.
Yeah, several, my first motion would be to move to ratify the prior use of executive session to discuss committee applicants.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to ratify prior use of executive session to discuss committee applicants. Do we have any objections or discussion? Not that we can discuss it because we took a blood oath. Going once, going twice, hearing no objection. Motion passes, and now we have a second motion.
I move to redact the general portion of council's report and release the rest to the public.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to redact the general portion of council's report and release the rest to the public. That is all of you lovely people. Any discussion? Any objection? Going once, going twice? All right, motion passes. Fantastic.
Woo.
Who was without objection? It's not.
I know.
I
It could be both. Why not?
Woo!
All right.
No, but beehive
I would
is the
really like to
exclamation
slash
mark.
it.
We haven't had a
I would really
single
like to
beehive.
slash in between that, so everybody will realize it's without and not woo, but I'll.
I like woo, but I also like when I put poo, which
I think it's a
is
celebration of unity every time.
Okay, where the heck are we at?
consider New Mexico petition for affiliation.
Carlos / Eklund. Okay, I'm gonna pass the floor to you. Let's hear it.
I would like to give the honor of making the motion to Mr. Eklund.
Oh.
He's used to second.
Yeah, I'm used to
Yeah,
support roles.
Second yourself.
We went into discussion.
Okay, has everybody reviewed the petition? I know the answer is no. Let's get a copy of that petition.
It's under new business with,
Prior notice. Okay, your beautiful little orange tab.
There.
and if you're wondering why it's redacted, is it's personally identifiable information.
Yeah.
With the state of the party nowadays, I just felt that, you all could move to release an unredacted thing, but I can tell you that the various signers thanked me for doing this. The LNC does have in its possession an unredacted copy. Staff has verified that these are all National Party members residing in New Mexico. There's more than 10 signatures. There's one per page because they did it electronically, but I think we have 18 signatures. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see all of the various signatures.
Okay,
So I would like to move that we affiliate with this new party in New Mexico, or political action opinion.
Okay,
I think if I could reword it.
Yes,
slightly.
this is
I
why I
put
wanted
that
to do this
Evelyn
report.
moved to accept the petition for affiliation with the
Free,
Free
Libertarian Party of New
Party of
Mexico. All right,
all right.
I wasn't ready for this.
So if you scroll on down in your OneNote, you can see lots of people signed.
And I'll second.
Okay, let's hear a little bit about the organizing convention. How did that go?
It went very well.
Okay, about how many people attended?
Was it close to,
38 attended.
Yeah.
About 27 were voting members.
Okay. How many people do we think participated in the rogue, or the very failed online convention?
Which one?
That's a
the
great-
last one?
The most recent.
The one that
I was on.
That
they
broke
changed the
everything.
bylaws, that broke everything? There were 15 maybe.
Okay, so we've got more
Yeah.
participation. And people were allowed to participate.
Everyone could,
Was
yes.
it on dial-up?
No, and there was no cursing in the background.
No dial-up, no cursing in the background. Okay.
You could hear all the people.
Okay, everyone could be heard. Were there any controversies during this organizing convention?
There was debate over bylaws, but that was about it.
That's okay, debate is okay, no one was tossed out.
The chair made a ruling that actually got overturned by the body, so it was,
Okay,
that's actually a good thing when the people feel comfortable. There was a discrepancy, there was somebody who was in whether or not they would allow him to vote. He had owned a home in New Mexico, but because of military issues, he lived part-time in another state or whatever. The chair ruled he was not eligible to vote because his primary residence wasn't New Mexico. The rest of the convention disagreed and said, no, you're punishing our military people. He owns a home in New
Yeah,
Mexico,
it
he's
was,
allowed to
it was,
vote.
his wife was enlisted in the military
Yeah.
and they were stationed in another state. But their primary residence is listed, especially with the election
Yeah.
commission, in New Mexico.
Okay.
And
And
therefore,
this was a board member of the former affiliate. So it wasn't somebody even who was friendly to their cause, and they overwhelmingly voted to allow him to vote.
okay, good to know. Okay, so there's a copy of the bylaws here. If you're in your OneNote, it's under new business, it's towards the very bottom. Okay, so these bylaws, help by a parliamentarian was given, yes, no?
Yes,
there were 3.
Okay, how many parliamentarians?
I helped on their bylaws committee. Sylvia Arrowwood assisted. Richard Brown looked at it, and I think JJ briefly did, but not as much as the rest of us.
Okay, so 4 parliamentarians, okay. And then, did members also help from New Mexico?
Yeah, there was a bylaws committee.
Okay, there was a bylaws committee, I believe Frank Martin was involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, do we remember anyone else?
Lynn Pinedo, I believe, was
Okay.
also involved.
Okay, great. How does the new affiliate feel about their candidates? Are they on decent terms with the candidates who are running right now?
That never came up, so I don't
Don't
know.
Okay. Did any candidates attend?
No.
What about Andrew Kennedy?
Andrew Kennedy was there.
Yes, he was.
Isn't he a candidate?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so we had at least one candidate attend,
He ran for an office.
state level. He's a
Oh, in the
yeah, he
organization,
ran, I
but
think he ran
didn't-
for chair. He's an incumbent, I think, at the county level.
And here's what the proviso that we had talked about, the name that came up earlier. It says Article 1 is adopted with the proviso that the party state central committee can amend the party's name with a 2/3 vote if required by law, other legal issues, ballot access, and/or qualify as a political party in New Mexico. The SCC can also change the party's name to Libertarian Party of New Mexico with same conditions if and legally permitted. If the new name does not contain the words Libertarian or Liberty, approval of the Libertarian National Committee will be required. This change must take place at a properly noticed regular or special meeting. This proviso is not intended to restrict the rights of delegates to amend these bylaws to rename the party to a name of their choosing and properly noticed to be heard at an annual or special convention.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? I've tried to ask as many questions as I can think of so that everybody has information. Yes, Mr. Elliott.
What's the process for them becoming an official political party rather than a PAC?
That was all discussed previously.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
But it was also discussed at the organizing convention. It's pretty public. To become a minor political party, you have to get a certain number of petition signatures. It's not onerous. I mean,
Okay.
it's not super easy, but it's not terribly
I
onerous.
guess I was worried about, when we get the clash, how
Yeah.
that's gonna work.
Yeah, it has to be petitioned.
That part,
So that's pretty perfunctory.
okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't want to revisit anything.
Yeah.
Understood.
You know what I mean.
I'm done.
Okay. Okay, we are, any other questions that are not executive session related?
I was just wondering, your opinion is mechanically, with the new bylaws submitted, does the party generally function like the previous party as far as its committee compositions, how it does business, how it, membership levels and so forth, whether or not there's anything massively different?
These bylaws are completely different. I have to just, honestly, I thought the prior governing documents were terrible. And it's nothing to do with the board or anything. They've existed throughout time. Who knows who wrote them? They modeled a lot of these bylaws off the Libertarian Party of Colorado's bylaws, who at one time, back when Nick Sarwark was chair, there was a review done by, I believe, Richard Brown and Nick, of all of the affiliates' bylaws, and one of the top 5 was Colorado. So they wanted to model it after another Western state that had good bylaws and good bylaws committee, but they tailored it to meet their needs. But it is a completely different structure than their old bylaws, and in my opinion, way more functional.
Okay, good question. Any other questions? Everybody's doing good.
And I just wanted to say that they crafted and recrafted the bylaws with considerations of making sure that their membership's rights were taken into consideration. They weren't going to be able to do things at special conventions that might disenfranchise their members. All that sort of stuff was taken into account. And I was very happy with their level of maturity and care.
And they have a judicial committee that's not composed of the board members that are being appealed, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, and by the way, all the term members of the people elected in the organizing convention expire in March. They very much consider themselves an interim board until they can have a full, real, regular, in-person convention. Everyone's up for re-election.
okay. I think we are gonna go to a vote if that's it. Should we do a roll call vote?
On this particular thing, even without objection,
I think we should.
One second, I got a copy over the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can find me to see how I vote. So I got my first tab here in order to vote, motion text. Moved by. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Most enthusiastically, yes.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott, well, I got Ford, Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
I will vote yes, Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yep.
Did I miss anybody? Except for you.
It looks like if I vote yes, it'll be unanimous, so I'm gonna vote yes. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to everybody in New Mexico who worked really hard on that.
There's a sigh of relief over there.
Notices.
Huh? I said that was a sigh of relief over there.
Nah, man.
Back to the agenda.
Unanimous.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the status of Razor's Edge migration. Mr. Nana, and I believe you're also gonna pull, Ken Molman up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gentlemen, please take the floor whenever you're ready.
You got the report handy somewhere you can project it?
No.
My copy's on my phone. It's in the OneNote, actually. Is it in the OneNote? Did you ever send it to me to send to Karen? I can't remember. No?
There was what you're second steps. I mean, really, all I want to do today, more than anything, is just give you an update on where we are on migration. This body voted to do that. We're working on it. We are approximately 3/4 of the way through, roughly. Where we ran into some delays, they weren't significant. Only on the 1st of November did we stop putting data into Razor's Edge. So it's difficult to move data out of Razor's Edge while data is still going into Razor's Edge. And so November 1st was decided as D-Day, no more. I believe that was in parts that operations would have reports to give you today that they knew would work and, for this meeting. So where we are right now, contacts, we have all the base contact information for everyone through October 24th of this year, so going back all the way in time. We have contributions for everything from the end of 2020 going back in time. There are a handful of discrepancies that we're plowing through. They require manual intervention. Unfortunately, Mr. Kraus is the lovely, lovely person that gets that lovely job. He is a great person. He gets that lovely job to validate what the hell is going on. Because we have about 550 transactions that don't make sense. So we're getting those fixed. And then from there, there's been several reports already built. So Andy's been working with the development team and the operations team to build the reports that they need. There are still more reports, and I suspect that'll be an ongoing thing, right? There's always a new way to look at the data. So we know some reports that need to be done. We know some reports that need to keep going. Otherwise, though, we're on track. We're on track to finish. The deadline that we had intended was December 1st. Then, we thought we'd be reporting at an in-person meeting in early December, like, hey, we're done. But then later in that meeting, we moved the meeting to now for good reasons. But that's why this is not a, hey, we're done. It's a, we're well on our way and moving along. So we've been able to do a lot of data cleanup. There will be more data cleanup to do afterward. So essentially, by moving the meeting to here, phase 1 originally was just going to be move all the data in. Phase 2 is cleanup and verification. We took phase 1, broke it into 2 pieces. We've got to now, we're roughly, 8/24 was the original date we got everything out. And then phase 2 will be getting everything. So everything we don't have. Phase 3 now is the cleanup phase, which will be basically ongoing through December. The data's in there, but we do have duplicates now as a result. Where, for instance, if Bob Smith and Robert Smith, right? We have means of deduplicating that, but we don't want to do that while we're still bringing the data attached to Robert Smith and separately data attached to Bob Smith until we get all the data in, and then we can collapse the records together and merge that data together so that we have a complete set of transactions to that person. That's where it's at. I'm open to questions. I got 30 minutes, like 25 minutes to answer any question you want.
Is somebody going to cancel the contract with them, so the licensing fee stops?
I don't believe we've done that yet, Robert.
The contract ends December 31st, and we are on track to do that. We will do that as long as we're good to get there, yes.
We've given whatever notice is required.
And Robert, can you confirm the exact date that we're supposed to give notice by?
Yeah, I'm waiting till after this meeting. We have to give notice by the 15th of November.
There you go, hence the first.
And I would just say, as someone who's run these projects before, I'd wait till the last minute, honestly. Just in case something, I don't foresee any issues, but why not?
You don't want to miss the deadline. You don't want to make a mistake and miss the deadline.
Yes, and when I say wait till the deadline, 1 day before the deadline.
What is the amount of, what's at risk monetary? Monthly fee, 30,000 a
It's a
year?
year.
Next year is 34.5, I think. So this year was 31 and change, and next year is 34.5. So that's just the license cost.
And Ken, can I ask a follow-up question for this here? Would you say that you're feeling confident that even if the, not everything was ingested into Civi, we now have enough backups that we can do that sort of offline and additional programs and put it in? So we're in the clear in terms of, setting an operations edge, correct?
Yes, so we've been focusing on what we call MVP. What's the most important information to get in, right? So obviously the people, then how much they've given us are the two most important things. We still have things like what activities have happened. So people have called people in the past and they're logging, oh, some former development director called this person 10 years ago. We're going to bring that in, but it's not MVP to know that some person that doesn't work here anymore called some person who's not a donor anymore 10 years ago. But we're going to keep it because it's information. And we are going to get a final dump from Razor's Edge. So we will have the complete SQL database from their system prior to cutting it all off. So we'll have a final that we can bring online and search manually the hard way if we have to.
Once we bring everything over and the migration is complete, is there anything we're gonna need to do past the end of the year with that data? Do we need to do data cleanup, not just fixing duplicates, but actual data cleanup?
There are many options that we can have. We have states right now that are queued up to get updates to their Secretary of State data. And the blame on that backup falls squarely on me. The process is brutal to bring those states in and to do them one at a time is a nightmare. There's a data transformation that happens every single time we do it. I think you guys appointed Eric Fowler to the IS committee, or you did?
Yes.
Excellent. Eric Fowler has been helping us by writing a process to actually streamline that. And that will be huge for us. Number one, I didn't have to write it. And number two, somebody else is taking the lead on that. We got it mapped out. So the SOS imports in the long term will go well. We can always improve our data. There are data sources to buy additional data, demographic data, donor data. You can get data on what other organizations someone contributes to. This is all good points of information because we find out what drives people. One of the things that Dave Schrader has found in his work is that a lot of libertarians, registered Ls, are actually single-issue voters. They're not very high on the Nolan chart, but they're single-issue voters, which means, number one, we should talk to them about that issue, get them to become a member, and then number two, help them along their journey, help them become more us. But that starts with knowing where they're at. We don't know where these people are. We just have a guy or a girl who is registered libertarian in a state. We don't even know what their interests are. So
We've used a vendor in the past to get some of this information.
Can't hear you.
We've used a vendor in the past to get some of this information. Do we still use them?
We have in the past, we started out using Aristotle. Later we used one called L2. That is who we've used recently. There are multiple vendors out there. It's whoever we want to buy from. It's not really necessarily my choice on that, but it's demographic data, right? So
I guess the follow-up being, I think that's something we need to do after a big migration. Probably should try to clean up the data a little bit. And I would
That's
personally.
gonna depend.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to address there. I know we've got lots of exciting budget conversations tomorrow and any kind of data purchase, it's right there in the name, has purchase. So we'll want to weigh, costs and benefits of things. A lot of demographic data not only helps our overall information systems, it also helps a lot of this committee's objectives around marketing. So market research and how we talk to people and how we target them and how we track attribution, how everything's working in growth. So we'll want to compare it not only to the stream of CRM, but also all other things in development and growth and comms. Yeah, so just keep it there.
any other questions? Sue?
Yeah, can you, or someone refresh the board's memory about what we, how much we allotted at the last meeting? And can someone give us just an indication, are we under budget, are we over budget? And we may be talking about this tomorrow, but will the committee or staff be requesting more funds?
Wait, yeah, hold on. Are you asking if they're gonna request more funds?
I'm asking both. Where are we at right now in terms of what was used?
That's probably a question for tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. I have no issue with
As
that.
far
And I'm
as-
assuming, the second part of my question, I assumed that would be, an issue for tomorrow. I thought maybe we could get a report today about that.
Answering generically, I don't think at the last meeting we requested any funds.
No, no funds were allotted last
No.
year.
Yeah,
Okay,
So
all right,
what we're allotting is staff time,
right,
which does
okay.
cost money.
Right, yeah,
But
okay,
we are allotting, in the one report, we have a chart of how much we've actually saved doing this internally versus how much it would have cost in the market, and then also, when we moved to Razor's Edge, how much that cost in today's dollars. Thanks, that was a lot.
Right.
So the, that might provide some insight there.
Okay.
And then, other than that, I mean, look, like any project, the more money you spend on it, the more you want to do with it, the more costs in some way, right? So it's really a matter of priorities for this board and staff to decide what has priorities. I'm mostly focused at this point on just getting so many hours on this. Focused on getting this job done so I get my life back, because it's a lot of work. But it's good work, and we're going to have better data. Our states that are on board will have better data. Even the states that are not on board will have better access to their data. So long term, Robert used to send out a data dump in an Excel spreadsheet to states, right? We want to get rid of that because, first of all, sending PII through the mail is really bad. And we've switched to using encrypted, great, and whatever, but it's still a danger, it's still a risk. You don't send Excel files to email. Instead, we're going to have it so that the states, even if they're not on the system, can log in and download their own. The people that have signed the NDA, which is still required right now in the policy manual, can log in and for both, actually, even the dumps required the NDA. If that's what you're going to ask.
No.
Okay.
You mentioned some kind of chart or whatever, then you said it's in the, and then you trailed off.
Oh, sorry.
Is there something I'm supposed to have in the window for you?
It should be in the,
Yeah, so just to give a quick update there, tomorrow we are giving all kinds of updates with staff reports, and we have for kind of a new approach or novel approach to this, we're doing a cohesive staff report and giving it all those updates at that time. And so I know with a lot of the Razor's Edge migration, there's a bit of independent content there. We want to make sure it's all
So
done.
when will I have that?
We'll have it to you tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, thank you to the committee on that. I know we have a couple of team members who are up in the air right now, and so literally, so thank you for the patience there.
are they literally in the air now? Because that's an improvement from the experience.
Unfortunately, no longer able to attend. Nonetheless, we can move on there, but yes, thank you.
Okay, so my question was a little bit premature.
Yeah, but we are, and I don't remember what the numbers are, we calculated how much, we know, and that actually probably should be ES, but whatever, how much Robert and Andy cost.
Right, okay.
I kind of remember because I may have been here 6 months ago, assuming nothing has changed. And of course, I'm charging $0 for my time, so.
Okay, 1 second, we got a question from Robert Kress.
I just have an answer that falls under the admin budget, which we're currently, I believe, below budget on.
Okay.
And also partially compensation, which we're also currently running a little bit below budget. So we're fine.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions about the migration?
Cool.
All right.
I'm happy to see more time back to y'all.
Well, delightful.
and, get back on this project.
Thanks for
Thank you.
migrating.
If you have any questions, you can reach out, and obviously, go through Laney, because that's kind of the chain of command thing. So I'm a volunteer, I work under staff now, it's kind of weird, like I used to be here and now I'm under here, but I'm around and I'm here to help, but, filter through the chain of command, please, don't all hit us with.
Levels, like Kramer. Levels.
Yeah, but it's more about like, I can deal with like one person or two people asking questions, but 20-something or 30-something or 100-something would be like.
Yeah.
So.
You're talking about a hierarchy?
Oh, right. Thank you, guys. Okay, so the next agenda item is Give or Give program by Ms. Harlow.
Probably not gonna have, I might make a motion tomorrow. Maybe I'll make it now, I don't know. Let me, I don't know, just open with discussion if that's okay,
Sure.
Madam Chair. Past LNCs, if you don't know what a Give or Gap program is, it's where you make a commitment, there's no teeth to it, like you can't get thrown off the LNC or punished, but it's just a gentleman's agreement that over the course of the next year, each LNC member will say, I am either going to give a certain amount or get it. So you're like saying, I'll commit to, say, $1,000 a year. I'm either gonna fundraise that myself, or I'm gonna give it myself. And that then gets factored into the budget under LNC fundraising. If there's 25 members of the LNC, that's $25,000 that is put into our expected fundraising budget. I would hope that we would do that tomorrow. I don't really even care what the amount is, but I do think the board, we all need to be fundraisers. I actually do think $1,000 is a reasonable amount, but it's been lower in the past. It was $500 one year. But tomorrow in our budget discussion, I hope we all can commit to a give or get. And that's all I really want to do today. I want to save it for budget and have everyone think about it. There's been people objecting to it in the past, but I think it's a no-brainer personally.
All right, any discussion, we can save it for tomorrow as well. Okay, good. Okay, next agenda item is first quarter 2023 meeting location and dates. So I believe our secretary has a chart and I also have a chart. So when you are ready.
Let me find it. I didn't include January in the chart.
I did.
You did? Are we thinking of having an in-person meeting in January?
Preferably not, but I included it since people put some dates in. I did not include the first week because I was like, okay.
I didn't include January because I didn't think that was, and you're gonna have a,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I already had one request. I'm not.
I included February, March, but there's been a couple emails since I've updated this.
Okay, so there have been a couple of emails.
I'm trying to make this smaller and it's not wanting to do so for me, so.
Okay, so Ms. Eiler's got hers listed and Robley has his listed.
I'm sorry?
As of today, we've had updates from Donovan Hanson.
And what were yours, Donovan?
The January 23rd, I'll be out of the week of January
Let's
23rd.
just put the last week of January.
Yeah, I don't have to column for January. Because we're not gonna have another in-person meeting in January, it's only 2 months away.
November, December, end of January. I mean, I agree, but
I can't do end of January, I'm gonna be in New Hampshire.
okay, all right. Well, if we get to January, we'll get to it. Okay, so yeah, if we don't die of nuclear war, we'll argue about January. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't that be tragic if the world exploded the day before our peace rally? February 17th through 19th, Ms. Eiler has listed, February 11th through 12th, Joshua Clark.
Give me, Ms. Ivers against February.
17th through 19th, that's the California Convention.
Okay, and.
You're putting February and March.
Oh, February, there.
I have them actually listed out weekend by weekend.
Okay, you overachiever.
Well, just because it was a chart and it was easier to see with X's.
What was the, after Carrie you did?
Joshua Clark is unavailable February 11th through 12th.
I got that.
Okay, January 27th through 29th, no, I'm not listing that one. And then Robley also listed January 27th.
Yeah, because that's, New Hampshire.
Okay. Okay, so we're looking at February and March.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
am I to assume that as of this moment, you have on your chart weekends that everyone's available?
Well,
No,
I
I
have
would-
every weekend listed, weekend by weekend, with an X next to everybody's name who's not available those weekends.
I'm gonna say something unpopular, I know that's so unusual. In the past, for the first quarter, the LNC has often opted for Easter weekend because no conventions happen on Easter weekend, and we started late on Sunday to allow people to go to a local church.
When is Easter weekend?
The Easter weekend is the 8th and 9th, but I'm not coming on Easter, I'm sorry.
That is. Okay, I'm just saying, you know it's happened before.
Oh, absolutely, and I think it was a
Yeah.
mistake.
How about, I mean, it looks like the middle of March is clear, there's 2
Yeah.
weekends.
Well, that's
what I was-
that's what I was
middle of
getting
March
to
sounds-
was that somewhere, now that we have all the information, we should know which weekends we're all available.
So I don't have any
St. Patty's.
conflicts listed out, I don't think past March 3rd through 5th.
Okay.
Do you?
Yeah, April,
So-
Oh, there's
Yeah,
Miguel,
Miguel.
that's the 25th.
That's
Okay.
the Washington State.
So the middle of March looks pretty clear, so
St.
let me
St.
see.
Patty's
Patty's
Day,
Day.
17th.
Let's do it.
17th, maybe we can do
And
it.
I don't have any
Pretty fun
conventions,
fundraiser.
at least I don't have any convention invites.
Yeah, go to Boston.
I would prefer not. Savannah, Georgia.
I can't hear Savannah anymore.
Okay, so I have a question here. We're looking at a couple of weekends in March right now. We're looking at the 10th through the 12th and the 17th through the 19th. What is spring break in Florida like around that time?
Good question. Yeah, it's a busy month. Robert probably knows since he's down in Florida at that time, but it depends because different weekends, different colleges get out. So.
Do we know if the costs skyrocket during spring break weekend?
Yeah.
Well, you got spring training.
Mr. Kraus?
Okay, so talking to my hotel friend in Miami.
Yes.
Mind you, if you pick another weekend, we can look at different places in Florida. Florida is what's chosen. But in Miami, the best weekends are in terms of expense, 3, 4, and 5, followed by 2, 4, and 5, followed by 128 to 129.
Okay. So can we, do you think that the 10th through the 12th and the 17th through the 19th are just like exorbitantly expensive, or are they just not
Yeah,
pricey?
it's definitely, it's definitely, you know, key spring break time, so.
And also, it's also spring training. So
Okay.
March is probably the most popular month for rentals for the year in Florida.
Okay.
Because of spring break, spring training,
And the
snowbirds, and the weather. Yeah.
They jack up
Spring
flight
break
costs
period.
to more places in March.
Okay.
Also, hotel availability.
Mr. Nana?
Is there a particular reason why we're trying to do it at Florida? Like, is this like do we need to be in Florida? Is there a reason, or was that just like an idea?
It was a
It's
suggestion.
warm.
Nice.
It will be warm. What if we do like, we've seen cheaper hotels in the Atlanta area. What if we do like Atlanta?
I'm totally open to that. I'm just trying to accommodate Florida. I'm just being like, someone threw out a suggestion and I was like, okay.
But we can go there next
Could I
time when
ask
it's not spring break season.
Could I ask a quick question, development related? Part of the reason we'll be able to do so well with fundraiser is Austin is becoming a hub for influencers, and a lot of people are excited about, you know, the libertarian movement. I know Miami or Florida is big for Bitcoin, big for crypto. I don't know if that is a consideration.
That's also
so-
part of it.
Yeah, but there's plenty of other considerations, so, yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna suggest Rhode Island, but perhaps.
All right, LA will.
That's gonna be-
Ford, you don't get to skip ahead of me, Mr. Ford.
Okay, 2026, Savannah, by the way, Savannah, Georgia, or somewhere in Georgia. Georgia's a great party, and, you know, I think we should be supporting them by our presence.
So,
Yeah.
okay, hold on,
I
let's
love
go.
it.
I got Ms. Harlow's and then Ms. Eiler, and I'll just say, you know, Georgia sounds really great unless our candidates, spoil the election and then we're gonna have garbage thrown at us. But, otherwise,
Shoot that.
go ahead.
Okay, we go to the East Coast a ton.
That's it.
So like, I
Because
would
2/3
like
of
to
the
be
country.
considering further west, and I'm actually going to suggest New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I would show support for our new affiliate.
Yeah.
I like this.
I
To
love
help
that.
them
I love it.
fundraise and get off the ground. I
What's the
was
hub?
thinking the same thing.
Although, I,
Okay,
for the Libertarians. I'll
We've
tell you
never had an LNC meeting in New Mexico, by the way, ever in the history of this
Excellent
party.
idea.
okay, how expensive is it to fly in and out of New Mexico?
Let's look it up.
I have no idea.
I'll do it.
We're Googling it right now.
Depending on where we
Where's the
go, you can fly to
You're
El
going
Paso
through
if you're going to
somewhere
southern
else.
New Mexico.
It's as bad or worse than Reno when we looked at Albuquerque.
What's the airport code? Anybody?
Is there any hub? Is there any hub in Albuquerque?
No,
None whatsoever.
it's worse than Reno.
Albuquerque's a hub for Southwest, I heard.
Yeah, like I said, you could get there from somewhere else, usually Denver.
So let's assume we do March 17th through the 19th, I'm gonna say I'm flying out on that Friday, flying back in on, say, Monday. Let's see what this looks like. It's from Columbus, Ohio, it is. Think eight. It'll probably be more expensive. $773, yeah, there's no way.
To go to Albuquerque?
To go to Albuquerque, New Mexico from Columbus, Ohio on those days.
Okay, so maybe
Well, I can tell you when we go to
Maybe
Virginia
Florida.
and then
Check
we go
Florida
there once
every
every
time.
term, it costs me $750 and nobody cares.
Check Orlando.
Well, I never knew that. You're
Oh.
gonna- you're gonna
No,
start
I say it
off
every
there.
time, going to the East Coast for some reason from, not Florida, Florida's actually pretty cheap, but it'll probably still be about $600.
Okay, all right. Throw out some more locations.
Colorado.
Atlanta or,
We don't want cold.
I think Atlanta, you know, if we can get.
Hey, there's a Motorama exhibit in Chicago.
Okay, so I'm looking at flight costs on
Hawaii.
Google for Orlando, and I'm looking at March 10th through 12th. And it's like $400 something right now
From where? San Francisco.
from here. But anybody else, you know, weigh in.
Atlanta's gonna be cheaper.
So if we were to pick March in Florida, we were to not be so close to South, everything is close to Miami. But if we were to go a little bit more towards the center of Miami, or even the west of the airport, we could probably get a better price. According to Robert, we might be able to find something that's less
Yeah,
expensive.
I think I can get us in that weekend, 310.
But for the record, we just did
Miami.
Miami.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just don't have ocean.
Okay, I'm looking at Orlando now.
We've been there plenty of time.
Orlando that weekend from Austin is $500 something for a flight. I just don't know if we're gonna get cheap flights.
Atlanta will be the cheapest
They
airport.
killed them
Yes.
other way.
Atlanta's the biggest
Of
hub of the
any,
South.
any state in the world, Atlanta's gonna be. the
Atlanta?
best.
If you were to do Miami.
Maybe we should just
Atlanta
not do
is,
March.
Atlanta's 400 to 500.
It's March too long far away.
Right,
You know, I mean, I think it's a really great idea to go to Miami, big pockets there, but not in March. So if you're gonna do that in June or whatever, you don't wanna go to Atlanta.
Okay, that's a very good point. So if we do want to revisit Miami, we should bump right above it to Atlanta. Oh, my goodness.
So it's actually just, everything is expensive in the middle of March, even in Atlanta. It's $500 to fly. to
Why are
Atlanta.
you, March is a terrible month.
What was it the traditionally black college? I don't know, they typically have, they went with the spring fest or something.
Can we share this?
Sure was.
The document that I shared with you? I want people to actually like take a look and see.
How about Vegas?
That's
Always
cheap.
Always.
Well, for this date range, I bet. Everything else is good. Let's look it up.
Okay, here's our availability spreadsheet. The end of January through the beginning of March.
February 26th, I'm open.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
It's April, I don't.
All right, I'm pulling your X off then. Okay,
Yeah, it's an easy drive for him too.
You pull my Rufus.
hold on. Okay,
But
okay, so
I don't think you believe me. Kayla's still next.
Oh my God, that's quite an
oh
interesting.
yeah, sorry, that's me typing with my right pinky while I was doing something else.
Oh. There you go.
Everybody's name is like jacked up.
Has anyone checked Providence? I mean, I'm just saying. It's a southwest,
No one wants to problem.
yeah, it's a southwest.
That's
Checked and rejected, sorry.
Alright, so here's the situation. It looks like the end of February is the most available, but my roof is not available.
Oh, we can't do that. Harsh.
What's going on the 4th and 5th?
All right, so like, I don't know.
Oklahoma Convention,
Yeah, that's the point.
Providence is the cheapest.
Providence is the cheapest flight. From where, Bob? Sorry. Very good, very good. There's a all-you-can-eat lobster seafood buffet, $125 price. All right? There's more ways to sin in Rhode Island than anywhere in America.
Not kidding.
Okay? All right? The birthplace of the American Revolution, the birthplace of religious freedom, is all within a mile square. You don't have to rent a car. There's free transfers from the airport, and I promise I'll work through it because it'll be a great preface to the 2026.
Yeah,
Richmond is a great airport. And it's a great airport. There's Amtrak, there's all.
I'm on board.
Okay, so.
I'll make it work.
Okay, so let's do this by the dates that people are actually available.
Yeah.
Let's focus on this first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let's get a date locked in. And then
Let's
find
look
a
at
place
dates.
that makes sense. What
Lady's
about,
doing a little bit of editing for us right now.
so the beginning of March is free?
No, Tyhagopian's not, there's the
Okay,
The
Oklahoma.
last week in February is good, right? Except for one person.
there's one person who can't attend.
I shouldn't. I have it in XCOM, but I can.
All right,
You could do it
I
remotely.
can-
You're
Next time remotely.
okay,
Yeah, I guess it'll be Sunday night. Yeah.
okay, guys, like, here's
I
the
can make it
elephant.
work.
Okay, the elephant in the room right now is that Mike Ruffo can't attend February 24th through 26th.
Well, isn't he technically kicked off the board right now anyhow? Via Aqua.
Can we exempt him in our motion to help
No.
him?
No,
Can we just reinstate him after that meeting then?
Yeah, that's right.
If we
No,
reinstate-
I'm not doing this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
this,
so this is,
Well, there's somebody. Why,
Okay,
okay,
but-
do we know why he had to, I mean, I hate to be that
there was
person.
an email that
He
was
sent
sent.
an epistle.
very long email.
Okay,
I
Okay,
think February is too soon. And like normally our first quarter meeting is March or April. Like February is awful early.
we're a month early.
we've got
That's true.
all of November in front of us practically without a week. Then we've got December, then we've got January, then we've got almost all of February. That puts us at like 3.5 to close to 4 months.
Yeah.
So
It's actually-
I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but we need to have a realistic conversation about who is available when. Now, if I have to skip the California convention, I'm gonna feel really crappy, but I'll do it because this is the commitment I made.
Yeah.
The issue is that looking here, there are 2 other people who are also slated to attend. March 3rd through 5th, we're only missing 1 person, but that's our treasurer. February 10th through 12th, now we're getting kind of early and we're missing 2 people.
Who are we missing March 10th through?
Mike Ruffo,
He's not March.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at February 10th through 12th.
I don't see anyone missing March 10th through 12th.
I'm February 10th through 12th.
Oh,
I'm looking at February 10th through 12th. We're gonna miss Joshua Clark, the alternate, and we're gonna miss Mike Ruffo,
And that would be the second as well.
and that would be his second.
and while I don't have a definite conflict, missing time off from work, I don't know it will be, but I'm gonna be at the New Hampshire convention already, and then asking for another day off 2 weeks later could be an issue.
Okay. So we're looking at right now, realistically, February 24th through 26th, or really expensive dates in March.
I'd say we just do the end of February.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks for Mr. Rufo, but like.
I'm not voting for that. I know I could be outvoted, I'm just saying I'm not voting for that.
It's uncomfortable. It's all uncomfortable. We're just gonna have to figure it out, and yes.
All right, so we're talking about either the end of February or the second week of March, which is not gonna make that much of a difference, in my opinion. Therefore, and the fact that Mr. Rufo has given us his information, and he's doing everything in his power to do that, I don't see why we should do the end of February when we can do the second week in March. The second week in March is expensive, but it's expensive for Florida. There's gotta be other areas we can
It's
go to.
expensive almost everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
But this is the reality.
Right, but we should be able to find, we should be able to find.
Yeah, so I think you're on the right track. Please pick a date. Afterwards, what I would suggest is you pick 2 or 3 cities and I can give you options in all those, and then you can make an informed decision. I could probably get you pricing within 2 weeks.
Can you just recommend the cheapest place to fly in March?
Also,
Atlanta.
Providence.
It's not really,
I
joking,
know.
like 13 different cities.
The end of February was like
$17,
$300.
$19 Providence, Rhode Island, it's under
Versus
$400.
600 or 800.
Because it's a tiny airport supplemented.
It's
by-
not a tiny airport. Why do you say it's a tiny airport?
All right, hold on.
I want to know, I'm facing geographic racism here.
Okay. Guys, settle down. I heard two things. I heard Providence, Rhode Island, and I heard something else.
Can we revisit the end of January?
I think that's too soon.
Hold on. What was the other city?
No.
Atlanta.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. No, Atlanta is a lot.
Tulsa's not gonna be cheap.
Madam
That was a
Chair,
joke.
may I
Okay.
finish my thought?
Yes.
The other thing was, keep in mind, we meet monthly. There's a lot we can do in between now and actually meeting in person. As much as I like to meet everybody in person, these are a lot more fun than the monthly Zoom meetings, but we can get business done. So I don't think we're in any particular hurry to be together again, other than it is a great way to do business.
That's fine. I'm willing to do it. I'm gonna have a newborn baby and I'm willing to do it.
And it was, I understand it's more expensive in March, but I also don't think we should go, it's worth throwing an LNC member under the bus.
I agree.
Because we signed up for this, which included expenses, and I'm super uncomfortable about going, well, fuck screw Mr. Rufo, it's too expensive in March. No, if there's a weekend we're all available,
Exactly.
I think we have a moral
That's the
obligation
weekend
to
we
pick
have
that
to do it.
weekend.
I agree. And we find
Okay.
the cheapest way and the best place to do it. I totally agree with you.
Were you serious about Chicago?
I'm going to Chicago.
There's a Moldorama exhibit in Chicago, baby.
I'm from Chicago,
Okay.
Hey, so you're the 24th man?
Drive down from Boston, that's my best friend.
Okay, so I was just not willing to throw him under the
He
bus.
says, yeah.
Oh, hey.
So that's
Oh.
on 24th in Miami, Rufo can make it, and it's not during spring break.
February 24th.
But we've
February
done,
24th in Miami.
but we've done
Everyone's-
Miami, we've done Florida, so, I love
Listen,
this.
Providence is out.
Why is Providence
I
out?
don't-
Hey,
I-
you can find the boss. Providence is out in
I had-
February.
Not gonna
We're
happen.
not going. We'll do it cold.
Oh, in February,
Not
yeah.
doing it in February.
Yeah.
We could get stuck there for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
We've already had people miss flights today.
Miami is warm.
Could I ask a question to Mr. Benner and Mr. Michaela? Development is very important with these LNC meetings, so I want everyone to keep in mind, we're talking a lot about cost today. I want us to also think about revenue.
I know a lot of rich people.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, what is the pool of people that we'd be able to tap into? Okay, amazing. And so, again, I know that's your region, and I also welcome anyone else who's a region rep or thinks there's a really active community around the country. We'd really love to help us fundraise and do that too, because that's the other half of this as well. Does anyone else have any points around Miami?
I'll get you one thing that we never get at LNC meeting, which is media. All right, do we want to pair it with the opportunity to go on localized version of major network media? I'll get us in the newspaper, that's right. So it's, again, all the kidding aside, I would love to have it included, only because it's a phenomenal place and it will be less expensive. If it's not, then we don't do it. I'll work with Robert over the next week or two to provide a bid, if you will. Let's bid out the next meeting. I'm up for it. And we don't do much in the Northeast. So, and quite frankly, not doing much in the Northeast comes at great expense.
Oh my God. I declined to Providence, Rhode Island for $400 a one way.
No, you're flying
Just
to
better-
Boston
what it does
and you
to
take your car down.
I have to bring all kinds of equipment and stuff when you add in luggage. Look, listen, whatever the board votes for, I guess, whatever. But you guys, somebody was like, Albuquerque is too expensive from wherever. To the East Coast, once you start going west, if you pick Miami, then you're saying $600 is fine for everybody
And
who's
that
coming
would
from the
three-
west.
3 in a row.
Right, it keeps being on the East Coast. Those of us who are more towards the West Coast are tired of paying 600 and something. I'm still all for New Mexico. I'm all about New Mexico. I'm telling you, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we come up with a handful in the next week, a handful of proposals, and let's all work with Robert and shop it. And I love the idea of New Mexico, by the way, Karen. I think that's a phenomenal, it's a great endorsement. We can figure out a way to do it.
Okay, I need a motion. And that motion can be for bids, competition, whatever.
I'd like to make a motion that we take the next 10 days to seek competitive bids and packages for purposes of hosting the
I
next
only
LNC
want
meeting
that less,
on a date certain.
because
That's what we all have to agree is a date certain.
All right, so I'm gonna say that February 24th is the
I'm not
best
gonna-
day.
That's a day?
Yeah.
February
that's
24th.
Can I ask a question? Stephen, can Mr. Rufo make the meeting in
Yes.
Miami, or can he make it anywhere?
Anywhere in Florida?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Do I have a second on my motion?
We gotta just do.
The,
We gotta
need to
do
just
something.
the date in March, was that the weekend of the 10th or the weekend of the 17th?
It was like 10,
Okay.
but I didn't, okay, so hold on, so Pat Ford was in the middle of making a motion. And it was motion that we take the next 10 days to see bids and packages on a date certain, and we need that date, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so what is that date?
February 24th through the 26th.
February 24th? Okay, this might look good, February 26th. Is that it? Motion that we take the next 10 days to see bids and packages on a date certain, February 24th.
We have a weekend where everybody, can.
It's been moved.
Next March 10th.
It's gonna need a
First weekend,
second.
Everybody can attend.
And if we don't have a second, that's okay, but
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we take the next 10 days to see bids and packages on a date certain, which is February 24th through 26th.
Objection.
Objection. Two objections. Okay, state your objection.
My objection, I've stated before, we have a date where everybody can make this meeting. It's March 10th. It's the next weekend everybody can make it.
Okay.
It's 2 weeks later than the 24th, or the last weekend in February, whatever that is. We are disenfranchising Mr. Rufo for a matter of 2 weeks. I will strenuously object to this motion.
We are only disenfranchising him if we don't have that meeting in Florida.
Correct.
Just letting everybody know.
Okay.
That is,
So he can make it if we do Florida the 24th through the 26th.
yes, he can.
Correct. So let's just lock in Florida and tell the staff to look at everything in Florida. Here, either way, okay,
Yeah, I know
Karen
what
Ann, here's the
No,
problem. I know what
I'm
you're
raising
saying.
my
There's some
hand,
motion.
I'm not doing crosstalk.
Okay.
For once we have a contentious motion, it's kind of refreshing.
It is. We haven't had this much fun since the last iteration of the
Okay.
committee.
Ms. Harless?
Okay, we keep going to the East Coast. Okay, while I argued passionately before for not disenfranchising Mr. Rufo, I also don't think one LNC member can dictate the location. That is, he might as well be considered unavailable. You can't say, oh, I'm only available at this latitude and longitude. No, that's unreasonable for the rest of us. March 10th and 12th is where we have no restrictions on location and everyone's available. So if this motion gets voted down, I am going to be moving from March 10th through 12th. Or whatever that weekend is.
Well,
Okay, hold on. Here.
All right, so I didn't put this in writing, but I am the chair of my local party. I'm doing presentations on the fourth weekend of each month. I can cancel it. I would prefer not to. So I can do the March 10th date, which is what my normal business meeting is, and I can ask for people to move that, but I am committed to making it one way or the other, but I would prefer to do the March dates.
Okay. Mr. Ford?
the motion on the floor does not specify a particular date.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it,
Yes, it
okay,
did.
are we,
It did. 24th through 26th.
okay, so does that make more sense to keep the current motion, which simply change the date?
We could amend it.
So
Amend the motion?
it's gonna depend. So, because it's gonna make sense to some people and not to others.
But can he,
You can move to amend.
I'll move to amend to any date that we all agreed on. If in fact, Rich, what's the date that everybody can make?
March 10th?
Right, can Mr. Rufo make it anywhere on March 10th?
I believe he
I
can.
believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it just becomes, then if we make the date, March 10th, and when we put it out to bid, in the manner which I described, We've got 10 days to come up with a proposal. We're all homers, right? So we're all gonna go, do something. And again, for the record, I love the idea of New Mexico. So in fact, New Mexico has been working on the agenda.
Out of information, what was the conflict on March 17th?
I don't believe there was a conflict, it was just more expensive.
There is no conflict, there is no conflict. So here's a couple of things that we're trying to consider.
Yeah, because
Let me just lay it all out so you can all mull it over, right? Micro post availability, the cost of flying to Florida in March, the ability to fundraise with millionaires for the party in Florida, which would be great, but preferably February 24th through 26th for our flight costs. The fact that people in other parts of the country don't want to fly to the East Coast over and over again. So those are the competing interests right now. Now, who's next?
Terry.
Mr. Nana and then Mr. Elliott.
Point of order, was there a motion to amend that?
I made.
Did you amend it?
Amend the motion to the date. And it says we've got two issues here. We have to set the date.
I'm so sorry. Okay, okay, so your amendment is,
To set the date to, what's the date that everybody's available? March 10th.
okay,
To set the date to March 10th.
Second.
okay, so we have a second, desire.
March 10th through the 12th.
Object, and I'd like to give a reason why.
Okay,
I did a price comparison between the 10th in February and the 10th, just given Atlanta, which everybody said was the cheapest place to fly regardless. And the difference in price was $300 for those of you who haven't looked it up. So that 1 month, same destination, $300 different, just
More
you guys.
in March.
More in March.
Okay.
okay,
Oh, you
so-
got the point? Oh, sorry.
all right, so
So
go ahead.
the amount of money I will save going to Florida if we do it in February, I will literally pay for part of your flight and still have money left over myself. Like if we go to March, it's like out of the question.
Yeah.
Insane.
Okay,
one over.
I think I need by a show of hands, who is on the fence about not attending in March because of costs?
On the fence.
I can't see
Depends on
it
where
if
we
you just
go.
go like that.
Depends on where we go. But
Yeah.
yeah.
it certainly
On the fence.
On the fence, I need to see.
I mean, I don't really, like, if
If it costs you an additional $200 to $300, if your flight is like over $500, are you on the fence attending?
It's over $500.
I need to see. Because we need to make an informed decision.
For $500 for a month.
Look on Skyscanner, it'll give you the
It's a
lowest.
matter of
Okay.
how much you can donate instead. That's another thing to think of too, is like, I donated, like, I know there's expenses involved, we all know that, I've had that conversation, but there's gonna be significantly more of what we can donate and do, or what we're wasting on flights. So it's kind of like, I do think that expenses matter, but it's also like the weight between, like, where do we really want to put our money?
I'm not trying to screw anyone over, I'm gonna show up wherever I gotta show up, but I need to know, you all need to know so that you make an informed decision.
What, is there a motion?
Yeah, there's a motion to amend.
And the motion to amend was to change the date from February 24th and 26th to March 10th through 12th, which is why I'm asking about costs. Mr. Excellent?
So I'm gonna speak basically refuting my own objection to the. Well, it's like, I'm convinced, like, the money is important. I like the idea of doing the Florida thing. I think that's probably good, and I'll make it work for my local, party, so.
Mr. Bowe?
This may be an unpopular opinion, but my opinion is that if there's that much money in Miami, then we should be doing a fundraiser there, whether we're having a meeting or not. To try and accommodate Mr. Rufo and spend an extra $500 to me as a moot point. Sorry, that's the way I feel.
Contribution,
Okay.
right? Tomorrow's contribution.
To follow some two good points there, it just occurred to me as well, we don't always have to do fundraisers the same time LNC meetings happen. It is very possible for staff to work with Michaela and just have a fundraiser there, and it's totally separated, so just throwing it out there.
Good to know.
National
Yeah.
fundraiser in
Yeah,
Miami.
we can do that, yeah.
Something on the water.
Okay, so that's doable. Mr. Nana?
Call the question.
Thank you. Okay, motion. It's to amend Mr. Mr. Ford's motion.
Actually, what you heard me say was, I call all questions.
Okay, so no debate, we're gonna do the amendment, then we're gonna go straight to the main motion. The motion as it's amended right now, the amendment is to replace the language of February 24th through 26th with March 10th through 12th.
Madam Chair, calling the question doesn't automatically call the question. We have to see if there's objection to
Oh,
calling
I'm
the
so
question.
sorry, no one objected. Do we have objections to calling the question?
It's one that needs to be right.
That's totally fine. Nope, none? Okay, questions called. Okay, so we're gonna go to a vote on the amendment. And we're gonna do it by roll call. Whenever you are ready.
Sport is hard. Just so.
The language
Most
was-
serious question we have.
Okay, so the original motion, we're voting on the amendment. The original motion was move that we take the next 10 days to see bids and packages on holding our next meeting, February 24th through 26th. So the part we're swapping out, the amendment is March 10th through 12th. So 10 days to see bids and packages on any location, March 10th through 12th. That's what we're voting on. You want 10th or 12th to replace February 24th through 26th. Now we will go to our vote.
Does everyone, okay. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
No.
Ms. Eiler,
No.
Mr. Elliott.
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I'm gonna vote yes. Mr. Nana,
No.
Mr. Michaela,
No.
I can hear you.
No.
Mr. Watkins,
Abstain.
Not voting,
are you here? Abstaining?
not voting.
So, Madam Chair, it's a yes or no.
Okay, so it passes. All right, we're gonna go to a vote on the main motion. And that is now, move that we take the next 10 days to see bids and packages on holding a convention March 10th through 12th.
Meeting?
Convention, yes, convention, yes.
LNC meeting,
Yeah, please.
Anywhere in the country.
anywhere. Bids and packages from anywhere.
I'm gonna throw me a birthday.
Now that I've butchered this a few times.
Yeah.
Are we all clear? Could be anywhere in the country.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote whenever you're ready.
Mr. Benner,
I'm gonna pass.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Michaela,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Abstain.
Mr. Benner.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it's 12-0.
Okay, now. I hope I don't piss you off too much. That motion was to take bids and packages. And nowhere in that motion did we say we would accept.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
That's fair.
Okay,
Make history or be history.
I want you to understand that we could potentially still not have a date. I don't want that to happen, but I'm just letting you know.
Okay, then I will make a follow-up motion that we set the date for the next LNC meeting for those dates, and the location to be determined via the process that we just described.
I will second that.
Okay, hold on. It's okay. It would have been explicit. Okay, repeat it one more time.
I move to set the date of the next in-person LNC meeting to, what was it, March 10th through the 12th? At a location to be determined via the bid process decided upon earlier. Or actually, I guess it's gonna be a subsequent motion probably. They decide the
determined.
location.
That was to be
Unless we're just letting the staff just decide.
determined
Hold on.
prior.
Mr. Nana, what I actually think you're doing, if we could, I can't hear myself talk.
Go ahead.
I think you're moving to amend something previously adopted, and your motion would be to amend the motion we just passed, which would be move to set the next LNC meeting for March 10th through 12th and to take bids for the next 10 days.
Okay, we're gonna need a subsequent motion though to actually decide a location when we get the bids in though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, one way or the
Yes.
other.
we're gonna have to vote on it.
I think it's kind of assumed, like we do this all the
Well,
time.
I'm
okay,
just saying,
so-
we don't need to waste time amending this motion. If we're gonna get bids and we're gonna have a vote, we can just set the date definitively at that time.
We could.
Okay, so what do we wanna do? Here's what I don't want to happen, but it could happen, whatever. We get bids in and everyone hates them. And then we're right back at square one. So if we can avoid that, I'd like to, but I am not gonna force you to do that. I'm just making you aware of this potential situation.
So you're saying you want to set the date? You want it.
I have zero, I don't care. I'm gonna show up wherever. Mr. Kraus?
Yes, perhaps I can make a suggestion.
Thank you.
I heard Atlanta, Albuquerque, Providence, Rhode Island, and possibly South Florida.
And Chicago, somebody said.
What I can do is provide you the 3 best bids for each of those locations. And maybe you allow the chair to narrow that down to like the top 3 to present to the LNC for.
Did you have Chicago on your list?
Or San Diego.
Or American snow.
Mr. Ford?
Let's go. One of the purposes, I think, and we're limiting this to 10 days potentially, because you're either, folks are either gonna do this or not. But I think it's interesting, if you will, and hopefully not overly complicating to literally our hero over here, that each individual person who wants to engage, I'm gonna engage. I'm gonna go out to our status tourist bureau this week and try and work a deal. So I think it's almost fun for all of us who want to present our city, our homers, to go out there and work a deal to give to again, the master here.
Mr. Kraus, the master?
The master will provide you our standard RFP. I'll put it up there on the list. And you all can take it where you want. It will go from there and I'll just plug it into a workbook like we do with the convention committee when we select the location. And then you all can decide what you might want to do next.
Do we wanna just find it out on the internet?
Yeah.
Maybe,
Arm wrestle.
maybe we put it up there with a donation page and people could actually vote with their money.
Which is why he's the master.
I think you're having a great point, and if people are making pitches, considering the cost is great, if you also want to talk to local chapters in an area, I'm sure lots of people would say, we'd love to have you, and be really enthusiastic about coming out to events and doing things, so that's another great way you can pitch everybody
You
else.
wanna blow my mind? Pitch an airline. Get us a discount.
Yeah.
Mr. Hagopi?
In all seriousness, if we do what Pat's saying, which I like, it would help to know what airport everyone's flying out. If we're gonna go and look at different options, we can scan real quick. So like a lot of my flights were cheap when they were saying expensive and vice versa. It'd just be helpful to know where everyone's
All right,
flying out.
someone start a thread on my internet is down, so I'm not doing it, but someone start a thread. Airports are flying out of, just like the dates of unavailability, airports are flying out of for Q1 LNC meeting. It's totally up to you guys whether or not you use that, if you're coming up with bids, but then the information's there.
Like our home airport is.
Where we fly out of, yeah. Roll idea.
Anyone else tries to fly out of Jackson, Mississippi, you're off. You're off. You're fired.
I love this group. You guys are great.
Okay, I started.
Okay, good, best. All right, now we're all very weird and we hate each other.
Oh, this was fun.
Get us Snickers, which they're there.
They're gone, Snickers.
Oh, now I'm mad.
You got-
They're not you when you're.
There's a Twix.
Uh,
Okay, we're gonna stand at ease for 5 minutes. and some of you are gonna go smoke a cigarette because you're mad.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you can take up smoking.
All the problems in this world, we are arguing over the next meeting. I love it. They're all aligned on ideology, but.
Yeah, this is not great.
Yes.
So that they can go to the court. And they had a big. Just up there.
You'll get it in, and then we'll get it in, and out.
I'm looking on Weather Channel, Weather Channel, they're talking about. I was just there. Well, they call it, they're all in New now, so they this is kind of nuts.
Yeah, but don't want to go that.
I don't think yeah, no.
Well, yeah.
What's very rare, not very Yeah, so
Starting early. Let's start winding it down. Let's start winding it down. We just had a very contentious vote. I'm gonna send this right back here.
Yeah.
It's bullet.
It's bullet.
That's just what I need.
It's not good for the baby. Not recommended. It's only the debate.
Absolutely, this is not.
Oh, everyone's fine.
Now we have to.
No shame, pour yourself a shot. Yes. Right back there.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'll see you in a minute.
What is it, Jim?
Oh, it's a bullet.
I suppose for distance research.
I looked up and I couldn't see it. Yeah. Although
My Carolina food, I don't no trace on the plate.
No, I don't like heresy. No, that's heresy.
Are you a bourbon lover? Yeah, I am.
So,
yeah.
I might also have don't see what the list of what we're doing right now. And then I'll look at my mini outbox, that's everything is in. Like, I never submitted those clearance. And then I just like, that's the 14.5, you know, occasionally I never get that. And then time, which is like, so it's Are we almost ready for
there's more else.
Alright, everybody got their training? You are welcome.
That was fun, let's do another one.
We're about to do another one.
We are.
Just
Just
think
think
it's
about it.
appropriate.
What are we gonna find?
Tomorrow night, LNC and staff are invited to my house for dinner. For dinner and a lot of alcohol. So I have a lot of alcohol in my house and I don't drink alcohol, so.
What kind? I'll drink it.
All kinds.
Rum.
Yeah, rum.
Oh, I love rum. Yeah.
This is.
I live less.
don't tell me nothing.
You're just lying with the baby boy about the.
I would.
I
I would. I totally would, but the airline won't let me.
You just say I'm not pregnant.
They didn't say anything to me. I identify as not pregnant.
I have a parachute. That's terrible. Don't even say that.
Okay, guys, we're about to come back and do another agenda item.
I had a good thing.
All right.
All right, our meeting is ready. Okay, so it's 5:28. 5:28. We may not knock everything out on this agenda the rest of the day, but we're gonna get close.
Oh my God.
Are we ready? Okay, next item up is item F, discussion of sale of building presented by
Not Mr. Hall.
Rich Cohen and Pat Ford. It is not
Mr. Hall.
Robley Hall, and we apologize, and I hope that the live stream is on, and so everyone knows it was not Robley Hall.
Sell it to stop it.
Oh, never mind. Okay, Mr. Bowen, go right ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. By the way, just want to thank everyone because, the last board that I was on, no one ever agreed with me about anything. So I really enjoyed the scrapping. We agree way too much. So I'm really happy, and I want to thank you all for letting me pick a fight over where we meet. I appreciate it. I feel much better. Very much, I'm ready to go. Thank you. So a couple weeks ago, I put on a discussion item on the agenda for discussion of the sale of the building. Some people have had, private discussions. We talked about it a little bit from the time that we were elected. I really thought it was about time that we had a public discussion of just what we feel. I just feel it's due diligence to consider some of the obstacles, if you will, the options, the good things too about, what we want in the headquarters, and if we do want it where we have it. So I'm not going to say too much more. Unfortunately, I think online people just automatically assume that because I posted the email, I was totally in favor of selling the building. People's hair were on fire about it in some cases. That's fine. I'm not, I'm used to that. But I have to say, I'm actually undecided. There are things we need to discuss as a board as to what the best interest going down the road is for the party in having a headquarters, where and what type and so forth. So I will tell you some of my concerns, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ford to say a few words, and then Robert, Mr. Kraus has a few things to say too. And then I'd like to just hear kind of everybody's, we don't have to get into the weeds about it, but I'd like to hear, everybody's overall feeling about, where we're going. So I have a couple of concerns. I have concerns about the layout and the location. Those are the two big things. I personally don't believe we need to be in the DC area. I know there are some that think we do, for media and for legislation and things like that. Honestly, I've seen no instance of it in the years that we've had it. I'm not sure that being there gives us any value or any added value, I should say, to do what we need to do. One thing that has always bothered me about the headquarters is the layout. It is just not, in my opinion, not built for a party for what we need. I personally envision more of a campus environment in a headquarters. Somewhere where there's meetings rooms, somewhere where there's some educational things. Obviously, we want to have maybe a little better parking, maybe on one floor, all on one floor, those types of things. Those are the two main issues and why, in my mind, I think it's worth actually discussing whether we, should have. Now, some people I know have discussed whether we need a headquarters at all. Okay, I believe we should have a place to park or something. I really do. But I envision something more maybe rural, suburban, a little more sprawling. Again, nice big meeting room, easy access, close to an airport, that type of thing. So there are a lot of issues, and I'm sure we're gonna hit a lot of them today. But let's just remember, unfortunately, we could probably speak 2 hours on this. But I'd like to hear what everybody's overall view is. I'd also want to make sure that staff is involved in the decision. I reached out via email just to make sure if anybody had any comments that they wanted to either say privately or to me or the EPCC or publicly. But let's keep in mind that staff has good input because they're the ones probably know more about the needs of a headquarters, an office, working remote, those types of things than you do. So with that, I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm just going to refer to Mr. Ford, but I will.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm yielding to Mr. Ford for now, so he can take over.
Okay, so, what I need in order to get an informed decision from my chairs is some sort of an investigatory process that would tell us how much we're gonna be able to sell it for, whether or not selling right now is a good idea, maybe an investigation into some other locations that we can move to. I know that when we sell the building, there are a very small list of things that we could actually spend that money that we get from the sale on, chief of which would be another property. So I think at this point, the best thing to do would be to turn it over to staff and say, hey, can you take a look at this?
And actually, I've got a little bit of a statement. Okay? That's exactly the plan. I mean, in a sense, there was a rush to judgment, if you will, on social media, shocker, about intent. And let me just get into it. This will be fairly quick. The responsibility of any board is to routinely analyze the efficacy of past decisions. So in calling for this study, again, it's a study, there exists no rush to judgment to sell our headquarters, simply the execution of detailed analysis requested by Mr. Bowen, and now I'll say you as well, sir, in conjunction with subject matter experts and, of course, the financial leadership of the party, Mr. Kraus, Mr. Gobian, our chair. As an organization, the Libertarian Party must decide which lane we wish to inhabit. The business, and in my humble opinion, the focus of the Libertarian Party is primarily the election of Libertarian candidates with an additional emphasis in advancing and understanding of the Libertarian philosophy. The diversion of resources, financial, management, and volunteer from the execution of that focus I feel is inappropriate. Simply put, we are not in the real estate business. The notion that any discretionary resources that could have been available to support a candidacy were instead spent on an office condominium, to me is a sin. On a practical level, the virtualization of business has been greatly accelerated by the corona crisis. The bulk of the professional staff currently operates remotely, eliminating the need for a large physical footprint. The Libertarian Party, and this is not a criticism, it's just an observation, has largely failed to capitalize on any synergies that may have potentially existed by our presence in DC, either with the federal government or the K Street lobbyist community, as loathsome as we may find them. But as mentioned above, the virtualization of our professional staff guarantees that trend will continue. The current location is physically incompatible with any of our meeting needs. At our last quarterly meeting, the party paid for board meeting facilities just blocks away from our headquarters. As part of this analysis, I'm asking that the body consider a smaller office rental, perhaps located in a less expensive locale, to Mr. Bowen's comments, perhaps adjacent to or nearby an easy airport for easy access so that we can be easily there at least once a year. Listen, clearly the potential sale of our headquarters is a sophisticated, nuanced transaction with potential FEC tax and real estate implications. Not to mention, and this is really critical to me, the serious consideration that must be given to the desires of the many donors who supported the purchase of the Noble Building, whose demonstrable intent was to provide a landmark permanent home for the Libertarian Party. But finally, the combination of the changing nature of the American workplace, the evolution of political structures from static hierarchical structures to really project-oriented work groups, combined with the challenges that any grassroots organization is facing right now for resources, I think it practically screams, not for a rush, immediate decision, but the type of analysis that Mr. Nana spoke to and Mr. Bowen is asking for in his request. And that's where I'd like to begin.
Okay, so before we begin, I want to make this is something I mentioned in my chair's report that I didn't harp on, but I'm going to harp on it now because it's become a real issue. We have a lot of LNC members going to staff and asking them to work on special projects, and it's kind of screwing a lot of stuff up. I know you guys have your hearts in the right place, you're active and you want to do stuff. What we really need you to do is we need you to run stuff through me and or Lainey, because they're getting mixed signals, and it's not right that some of us would be pissed off at them for doing X, Y, and Z instead of something else. We're trying so hard to streamline everything. So there have been several projects going on. Staff is not ignoring you when they don't do something. Staff doesn't know sometimes what to do. So from here on out, let's try to fix that. Like, obviously, the communications team, they've been deputized to help. IS committee, they're gonna get deputized to help. But what they do is they answer to staff, really. Like, they're almost like employees. So what we don't want is 12 different bosses, because that is too stressful. So on that note, I know Robert Kraus did some work, but let's try to reform how we do this in the future, just so we have some more clarity. Oh wait, we got Ms. Harless. And then
May I respond to that?
Yes.
I will take full responsibility for that remark. That was definitely my situation. I reached out to, and just to get the facts on the table, I reached out to Robert to get a copy of the original settlement sheet that I wanted to have to kind of do some analysis. At that point, Robert and I got to do a discussion. He talked about a couple of things he could do. He had more knowledge of it than I did, and I basically said okay. And when I said okay, I did not talk to Lainey or our chair, and that's definitely on me. That's a mistake, and it's a mistake I won't make again.
It's all good. And
I apologize.
It's okay. I appreciate it. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and throw the last LNC under the bus on this one, because you didn't always have leadership that would actually be responsive or respectful to your requests. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality of it. But if you have a request, I'm going to respond to you because I'm a different person. Okay, Ms. Robles.
I agree that we constantly got to be reevaluating, and the layout is my only problem, really. I don't really care where we're located, to be honest with you. We have to be located somewhere, and DC's as good as anywhere. I don't have that weird. I'm not saying anyone else would get. I'm not trying to call anyone weird. I'm just saying I don't have that reflexive. Oh my God, I can't be in DC because it's evil, because it is. But whatever. We're in politics. We're gonna, But the fact that we can't have an LNC meeting there is just insane. Absolutely insane. But one thing I can tell you that I will never do. I'll never vote not to have a headquarters. I don't care how virtualized the world gets. A bunch of people gave money for us to have a building. And unless there was a resolution from a convention of delegates, they're the ones who have the authority to make a decision that we're not gonna have a headquarters.
It's illegal, Russ, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I know people have talked about that. I just wanna say where I'm at. Even if there was something where, oh, you could get, because half of the, whatever it might be, donors want us to have a building. And I think that just needs to be really clear on the record that that's not what's being contemplated. But I do think we need a building where we can have a meeting, and that headquarters just isn't working. Oh, yeah, and I'm gonna give full credit to Star Child for bringing this up, is we can get free advertising with the right building if we can have a big ass sign out in front that says home of the Libertarian Party. The fact that we could have like something that looks like in one of the modern cemetery plaques up on the wall, is just silly. We're getting nothing out of it. No one even knows we're there. But if we got maybe an older property, or even as he said, a converted church, something that's cool, like landmark, where we have a big sign, you're not paying for, you can't necessarily quantify the amount, but that's advertising that we don't have to pay for because we own the building. So, but I don't actually think staff should be tasked with it. I think a committee of professionals, real estate professionals or whatever that know this kind of thing, that if we want to look into this, that we appoint an investigatory committee of professionals that can give us a very detailed report that answers our questions. There might be some real estate professionals at this table, I don't know, but most of us are not qualified to deal with this.
Okay, so with that in order here, we're gonna go next to Mr. Michaela.
Yeah, the headquarters in DC is more like an embassy. It's an embassy for libertarians. There's obviously opportunity to make it more of into something that we can utilize as a home base in DC. And let's be clear, the headquarters has always been a point of pride for libertarians. Over the years, folks have donated. There's even rooms and parts of the headquarters. It's named after people that have put this together. So rightfully so, a lot of people want us to have a headquarters in DC. The biggest problem about having a headquarters in DC is that you have to have staff in DC, and you're going to pay them more money to live in DC. We also have been paying for many years the press club pass in DC, which we've never utilized. We've always floated the idea of having somebody to lobby in DC, lobby legislature, and actually do things in DC that make it valuable to be in DC. Otherwise, why not be in the middle of nowhere for pennies and dollars? So what's really the net benefit? What do we want to get out of being there? And what I would like to encourage and invite us to do is try to at least attempt to maximize our presence in DC for something of value that we can actually use. Because right now, we're simply not utilizing it to its full potential. So before we have the conversation of, let's sell the building and move out of DC, let's talk about how we can actually extract the maximum value that we currently potentially get, and then make a decision. Maybe we have to move down the street to a different type of building. Maybe we need to get an architect to come in and redesign it so it suits us the most. But I think right now the way we're utilizing it is the conversation we need to have before we talk about moving it around anywhere else.
Okay, so here's the order I've got right now. Gopian, Eklund, Laney, Houston, Ford, and Nana. Okay, so we're over to Todd now.
All right, so 100% open to this conversation. I agree with a lot of what's said. However, in my opinion, nobody in this room should spend 5 minutes on this until after the election. So if we were to appoint somebody like Karen Ann's saying, an outside entity, they could potentially work before the election, but we need to be focused on ballot access and fundraising for the next 2 years. Otherwise, we're doing ourselves a giant disservice because there's not enough benefit to moving compared to what we could be doing in that 2 years. So that's my opinion, is that if we were to do something, it should be an outside agency or an outside group of volunteers that comes to us, and the first time we hear about it is the day after the election, so that none of us are focused on it while we have more important stuff to do.
A point of inquiry, please.
Yes.
Mr. Gobi, which election?
Sorry,
What year?
presidential election?
That's what I thought, the presidential
I'm saying
election.
the next 2 years, we have better things to focus on. Plus, it'll probably take 2 years to get the right answer. So let somebody else work on it and come back to us the day after the election, give us the presentation, and then we can take it from there. I'd be fine with that.
Okay. Eklund?
I really like the way this thought is evolving, because the idea of the headquarters, and particularly the headquarters in DC, it has certain, this is a long-term, orientation when we're talking about headquarters. What do we do with this? Are we just focusing on making connections, or are we doing things like, what we have or what I have as a vision for the Libertarian Party is triggering a mass movement, and it's just about finding the right time where we can grab the momentum of the message that rallies America to freedom. And being able to harness that in Washington, D.C. is actually a very, very valuable thing. The question is, does the headquarters facilitate that best in its current form? I don't think so. I think that a lot of our critiques, being able to have our meetings there, being able to have it as a place where the enthusiastic movement and the party membership can orient and anchor as this is the place where we start, and if we're going to do public actions, public things that bring more eyes on the libertarian message, on the libertarian philosophy, on the libertarian activism in America, is that a place that's ready for that? And of course, can we achieve that financially, with an equilibrium with what we're currently obligated? Can we transfer our current economic, investment in our current headquarters into something that facilitates all of these different possibilities? That we have space. It's still maybe proximal to Washington, D.C., so that we can actually have something where we can have, I think of, if we have a major libertarian moment where we're having a presidential, a real attractive, revolutionary moment, then we can bring all these enthusiastic people to Washington and have a central anchor there. And then from there do movements like mass action, that sort of thing. That's a little, but we want to also have a very practical thing of this is where our records are kept, this is where we have meetings, this is where our staff does things. And I think that we can achieve that, but we need to have perhaps somebody else, some professionals working on this with this in mind in the background while we're moving towards that mass action being ready for us.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go next to our executive director, Ms. Houston.
Thanks. So before I was in the capacity that I'm in now, I was a new libertarian member who observed people have discussions about the building, some good ideas, some not so good ideas. And when I was asked to join on, I did extensive onboarding with our former executive director for hours and hours and hours and hours. And one of the things that I approached that conversation with was questions not only about the building, but the building fund. And what I want to do very briefly is impart some of the knowledge that I learned as a person who is new to the LP and new to the role. And the main thing I hope you take away from this is a conversation that is extremely thorough and deep, and and very multifaceted and complex. And so I think this is an awesome discussion, but I encourage whatever is discussed today, we essentially determined that we need to go off and look into this a little bit more and not make any rash decisions today. It seems like that's the tenor of the room. The most important thing to impart is that not only is real estate an asset, it has operating expenses. I think there's a lot of logical things everyone here in this room knows about the way we run a remote staff in a modern world. We want to be a modern workplace, and that's really great. We want to have, our culture is related to that. I didn't even think of advertising as being a thing that we could get out of this. There's also, we're in politics, which is a regulated industry, and there's a lot going on with the way that donors can provide funds to us that has to do with real estate investments. So I was not aware of that before taking on this job, and our former executive director was able to walk through several purely financial opportunities that we've had with the building fund that is really, really important to consider. It has nothing to do with where the headquarters is or that specific piece of property. So in closing, I think Angela makes a really great point that we want to make sure we are prioritizing staff time well. There's a whole bunch of ways to look into this, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware that this is an iceberg of all kinds of interconnected issues that we should look into. As a brief recommendation, I would really love to hear all kinds of questions like you put together in your motion so that we could not only figure out if there's some easy ones that staff can run down for you, and when I say staff, let's say staff plus Todd, because Todd knows a lot of our numbers really well. But also if we need to go look into a more extensive committee and then on what time horizon. So hope that makes sense, but again, I want to leave you with, there's a lot of FEC and donation implications that have nothing to do with the logical decision of the property. I didn't know that, and credit to Tyler Harris for walking me through that. So, and if there's any questions, I can take those.
Next up is Mr. Ford.
Yeah, and I just want to sort of summarize, reflect back on your statements. First of all, Karen, in this very same manner that we ensured that the donations received from the, I believe it was the cyber currency, cyber fundraiser, went to candidates in very much the same way. That's why I stressed that people donated money to the party with the clear expectation that this would go to some type of landmark destination, property location. My point is not to try and affect change today, but to plant the seed, understanding that, well, first of all, we've got an election 4 days. We've got a lot on our plate for tomorrow. So this was really just to kind of throw out the idea, understanding that given, again, the nuances, FEC, IRS, the treatment of any gains, hopefully on the sale, the timing of the sale, all of that, we don't, again, unless you folks are very accomplished in a lot of ways. I'm just not sure if there's a real estate person here. You're right, we absolutely have to go out to and get the right people. And so would it be great to have a headquarters in DC? I'm going to put the challenge to myself included. I haven't done anything about it. I haven't personally done anything to promote the outward-looking use of the facility. So I stand equally responsible. But I'll put the challenge out to all of us. While we have this building, and it looks like we'll probably have it for quite a while, while we're doing this analysis, let's as a group come together and try and figure out a couple of ways, whether it be advertising on the building or an event or a tax day protest, who knows? Have something there so that people understand that we are in the heart of arguably one of the most, spiritually, politically intense, 2 or 3 square miles on the planet. And let's take advantage of that in the interim while we as a community come together and understand and respect the wishes of the donors, but at the same time, try and promote a headquarters that's useful to us. And that's really the whole point.
Okay. Up next is Mr. Nana, but he is out of the room. So then it was me. Okay, so I'm very wary of messing with the building fund. And I think we should all be very mindful of that. That's really important. There's a lot of financial implications, ways that we can fundraise without going into too much detail, which may or may not be a good thing to discuss on live stream. There's a lot we can do with the building fund. I'm not excited to sell the building. I will say, I'm not excited to sell the building, and I also hate the building. The building is, who has not seen the building? Okay, just a couple people. It's a 3-story condo that's too small for us to have an LNC meeting, and I can't imagine us inviting lobbyists over or doing anything because they'd sit in a cubicle. It's very awkward. It's very pretty from the outside, and it's in a nice part of Alexandria. I'm sure the people who purchased it did the best that they could. No shade thrown at them. It's just not very functional. We only have one staffer really who works out of it at this time, and when we had more staff there, they also didn't work out of it very frequently. I just don't think it was properly utilized, and I don't know if we're really in a situation where we would be able to properly utilize it. I believe we do have a real estate person who lives within a couple hours of that building, and that would be Andrew Watkins. And I don't know that, I know that you're going to be the person to be tasked with this, but I bet you could give us some input on who or what kind of person we should look for.
I can try to find it.
There you go. So we do have a little bit of knowledge there that we can lean on. If we're gonna pursue this, I would say we should think about when we wanna do a report and when we wanna look into it, and maybe that should be kind of what we're thinking about. Definitely at least after the midterms.
Yeah.
Any additional thoughts? Yes, Mr. Cowan.
I did ask Robert, in a casual conversation yesterday, about the value of the building. Apparently, we're inverted now. So the building's worth less than when we bought it for because of the current interest rate prices. So we're not in a profit mode probably for 12 to 18 months. So if we want to make money on the project, that is important to pay for, we're looking at 2 years.
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, just because probably a half dozen of you have asked me questions. Maybe I should
Oh, I
just
wasn't
share
the
the
only
answer
one.
with everyone.
Yep.
So here's just a tiny bit of background. First of all, the valuation. At a high, we were probably valued at 975-ish.
Robert, could you
We
tell them?
bought it at 825. Currently, we would probably get 725. In 12 to 18 months, if interest rates come down, we can probably make what we paid for it. Possibly, if an investor looks to buy the entire complex, we could double our money easily. So that would be in the 18 to 36 month range. When we bought it, this was considered our quote unquote first home. Like many of you, you can't always get what you want. The LNC made a list of 10 things. This place had 9 out of the 10 items that the LNC demanded that a headquarters have. We thought in 5 years we would sell it. That's frankly what we thought when we bought it. It was bought as an investment, as a stepping stone, right, to your next home. And unfortunately, the market had its ups and downs in the last few years. The commercial market. We are getting, our realtor will provide a full analysis for you all, just to have that they've done every couple of years with every board. They pretty much, every board brings us up, and every time we just say, hey, get us an analysis. So we'll get an analysis, because that doesn't take our time. It's free. They want to make their commission hopefully someday if we ever sell it, right? So that's basically
Got it.
what I've shared already with
Does
everyone.
that answer a lot of questions?
Thank you, Robert.
About the finances and like the timeline if we wanted to make money, and also the original idea and intent behind buying it?
Madam Chair, we're at 30 minutes. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
I was timing it.
Last question, keep it short.
Sure. I just wanted to say that the purpose of having these facilities is in order to get a concrete result. And these conversations tend to run around, hey, what are we going to do? We have a building. Are we going to sell it or not? And I think we're asking the wrong question. I think instead you need a real estate plan, or as much in the way of business as you need to know overall with real estate, whether or not it's one facility, 2 facilities, it doesn't matter. But what objectives, getting back to what Mr. McKeeler said, is that instead of thinking about this particular building at this particular time, and whatever the place and whatever the funds, that instead, if we're going to task any group with any job, it's to list what the role of real estate should play in the party, period. And then that sets the baseline for any buy or sell decision. Because first you say, I have a continuing plan on what the organization has adopted as what they want to get out of any and all real estate. And then you can then begin to execute on it. So to a large degree, I think we need that and not put the cart before the horse and talking about particular transactions at any particular time.
Okay, so we're at time now. We're moving on to the next agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, we are at 6 o'clock exactly. So, the Market Institute proposal was something I was going to actually ask that we move into tomorrow to discuss under the budget meeting. That was my intention, to put it with the affiliate support committee budget presentations and candidate support committee budget presentations. Is there anything that we need to do today, right now, that cannot wait till tomorrow? Nope, we good? All right. So I think we should adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
So moved.
Second.
Robert has his.
Oh, Mr. Kraus?
Just letting you know, I will make sure this room is locked up. They're only going to clean up, obviously, trash. And so any non-trash items will be left alone. So pretty much the room's going to be untouched until tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay, thank you. Any objections to adjourning until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning? All right, hearing no objections, we're adjourned. Can we get a reminder from staff about what's going on tonight, what time and where the location?
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Yes, so let me just repeat that. This is all in your inboxes. You need to click Yelp link, but we're going to a location about 5 minutes from here called Central Machine Works. And it's gonna be really fun time, indoor, outdoor. So I really want everyone to come down and meet some local members. We got a bunch of great people coming, and it should be a good opportunity to keep some fundraiser rolling as well. So anything else we should mention about coming tonight? It's 8 to 11 p.m. So hopefully that gives everyone enough time to grab some dinner and then enjoy yourselves.
Is it casual?
Oh, it's a brewery. So yes. So we got some questions.
Casual dress?
Oh, casual, yes.
I like that. Do they have food? Is that?
Let me just confirm, it's primarily a brewery.
Yeah, just said he.
Did you?
Yes. Pizza, oh, that's great.
Yes, sir.
I've seen Robbie show. Yeah, oh yeah.